Good morning, class 3. Let's continue chapter 4, Our Country India from Social Studies. In the last class, we have done the northern plains of India. Now, today we are having this topic. This is the Thar Desert. That means desert land of India. A large area of land covered with sand is called a desert. As we travel to the northern western part of our country, the landscape changes. We can see miles of sand. This area is called Great Indian Desert or Thar Desert. This region gets very little rainfall. The climate is dry and hot in summer. The desert region is not thickly populated. The camel is used in the desert for transport. It is called the sheep of the desert. So, children, as we all know that desert means a land which is covered with sand only, okay? So, in our country also, the northern western part of our country, when we reach there, the landscape changes, okay? We found miles of sand. That means when we look around, we can see only the sand, okay? That land is called desert land and the name has been given the Great Indian Desert, okay? So the Great Indian Desert also and the Thar Desert also we can say. So in this region, that means in desert regions, it gets very little rainfall, okay? And that is why the climate is hot and dry in summer season. So the camel is used in the desert for transport. It is called the sheep of the desert. So we all know that camel is called the sheep of the desert because only camel can survive in desert land. Okay, so in that region also, in desert region also, camel is used for transportation. Okay, that's why camel is called the sheep of the desert. The Deccan Plateau and the Ghats. So next one is Deccan Plateau and the Ghats. The southern part of India is a peninsula. A peninsula is a piece of land jutting into the sea and surrounded by large water bodies on its three sides. So the southern part of our country, east, west, north, south. This is southern part of our country is a land which is called peninsula. Okay. So what is called peninsula? Peninsula is a piece of land which is surrounded by water on its three sides. Okay. So peninsula is a piece of land surrounded by water on its three sides. The Indian Peninsula has the Bay of Bengal to its east. So now Bay of Bengal is to its east. Okay. The Arabian Sea to its west. This is Arabian Sea. Okay. In the west and the Indian Ocean to its south. So Indian Ocean to its south. This part of India is called the Southern Plateau or the Deccan Plateau. Sorry. So this part of India is called the Southern Plateau or Deccan Plateau. That means the southern part of our country is Plateau. Okay. So this is called Deccan Plateau or Southern Plateau. A plateau is a flat-topped region that is raised above the surrounding land. You can see the picture. This is plateau, okay, and some land is raised above the land. The Deccan Plateau region has many rivers like the Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, and Mahanadi. These rivers can be found in the Deccan Plateau of our country. Okay, so this Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, and Mahanadi. These rivers are are rain-fed. So these rivers are rain-fed. So they often become dry during the summer. This region is very rich in minerals. So because of the rain-fed, this region becomes very dry during the summer seasons. And these places of India, these Deccan places are very rich in minerals. Some parts of the plateau are covered with thick forest. So some parts of the Deccan Plateau are covered with thick forest. Also, this region has a moderate climate. So, where there is a forest, also that means the climate of that region is moderate. To the west of the Deccan Plateau are mountains called the Western Ghats. So, to the west of the Deccan Plateau, Western Ghats, okay? To the east of the Deccan Plateau are mountains called the Eastern Ghats. So, to the east of the Deccan Plateau are mountains called Eastern Ghats. There are narrow strips of plain land along the eastern coast of India. They are called the coastal plains. So these are coastal plains, okay? Yes. So this is Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats, and this coastal plain, which is narrow strips of plain, okay? Now let's look at a short video of the Thar Desert.
A Thar Desert. A large area of land covered with sand is called a desert. As we travel to the northwestern part of our country, the landscape changes. We can see miles and miles of sand. This area is called the Great Indian Desert or the Thar Desert. This region gets very little rainfall. The climate here is dry and hot in summer and cold in winter. Life in the desert is difficult. The desert region is not thickly populated. Camel is commonly used in the desert for transport. It is called the ship of the desert. The Deccan Plateau and the Ghats. The southern part of India is a peninsula. A peninsula is a piece of land jutting into the sea and surrounded by large water bodies on its three sides. The Indian peninsula has the Bay of Bengal to its east, the Arabian Sea to its west, and the Indian Ocean to its south. This part of India is called the Southern Plateau or the Deccan Plateau. A plateau is a flat-topped region that is raised above the surrounding land. The Deccan Plateau region has many rivers like Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, and Mahanadi. These rivers are rain-fed. They often become dry during the summer, unlike the snow-fed rivers of the north. This region is very rich in minerals. Some parts of the plateau are covered with thick forest. This region has a moderate climate that is neither too hot or too cold. To the west of the Deccan Plateau are mountains called the Western Ghats. To the east of the Deccan Plateau are mountains called the Eastern Ghats. These mountains are not as high as those in the Himalayan range. There are narrow strips of plain land along the east and west coasts of India. They are called coastal plains. The